Yo, happy Tuesday, everybody. Adam, how are we feeling today?
Feeling good, bro. Tell me about, I saw the space going on, the ordinal space the other day, but I saw you were on there. Give us the brief overview of what all the hubbub was about. It was littering my timeline. Give us the TLDR.
I mean, honestly, it's nothing that is new to us. I mean, it's what we've been saying for years at this point. Is that Bitcoin is a layer to issue assets, and then you're going to take them to other places. Like that's been, I think that's been clear. We've been talking about that we tried that even with BRC-20 back in, when was that? That was, I mean, that was, granted, that was probably our worst product release.
I mean, it was a
long time. That was like, yeah, almost 2.5 years ago when we tried to take BRC-20 and trade it on Ethereum. And I think people are just now coming down to that realization that Bitcoin's the asset issuance layer, and then, you know, try to trade in other areas. Only a handful of things will probably have success trying to trade on the base layer. I know Arch Network is trying to solve that, as well as a few others, but for most, it's why not have it listed in as many places as possible? I used this example before, but if you're trying to sell something on the internet, like if you think of blockchains as Web2 companies, right? Think of like Bitcoin as eBay, think of Ethereum as Amazon, and Solana as Shopify. Why would you not sell an item on all three of these websites if you're selling something like that? The idea of being against that, to me, is just like terrible business practice. Like, why would you not? It's like if you have a stock, right? If you're an owner of a publicly traded company, why would you not want it listed on the New York Stock Exchange, as well as Larry Fink's Texas Stock Exchange? Like, to me, it just makes no sense why people are really against that. But hey, that's tribalism, I guess.
I was literally out to breakfast the other day with one of my wife's friends who like knows it's a zero, right? Knows nothing. Well, what do you do, you know? And trying to explain what Emblem does. But that's the exact example I gave. I was like, you know, if there's a stock market in Costa Rica and you're selling stocks in Costa Rica, wouldn't you prefer to sell them on the New York Stock Exchange, where there's a lot more people, a lot more buyers? And that makes sense. Like, people get that. And if you think of, you know, our idea of like blockchains as countries, why would you want to sell your like tiny niche country, or the country that doesn't have that robust infrastructure? You want to move your asset and sell, trade, do whatever on whatever blockchain makes sense for that particular thing. So we get it, but the world is coming around, and that's good to see, man. I like to see that.
Facts.
Yeah. Bullish for builders, honestly. I saw a few people, and then we get to the conversation here. I saw a few people in my comments talking about how they felt betrayed because the leaders of the community, want to go explore these other areas. And I was like, well, doesn't that open up more opportunity for builders, not less? If you can now use different chains and different types of applications to leverage with the technology that you're building, to me, that seems like a lot more opportunity than just trying to sit here and bang your head against the wall. Chris, you have a take on this? And then we'll go on to the
Yeah,
conversation.
I mean, some of this stuff, it seems so obvious to us for so long. Like, I mean, Germany makes the best cars in the world, and they want to export. They didn't want to just keep them in Germany. They wanted to export them to the world. And then, the boat came along, and they can ship them via boat all over the world. But then the plane came around, and they can ship them through the air quicker all over the world. They can disperse their product all over the air, all over the world much quicker. That's something that Emblem Vault would do through all these different chains. And so there's different innovations that occur, and it makes the shipping product better, but it doesn't change the actual product. It doesn't change the car. Like, rare Pepes aren't worth less when they trade on Ethereum. No one thinks that rare Pepes are less rare Pepe because they trade them on Ethereum through Emblem Vault. So it's just, people are resistant to change. People are resistant to new things and new products. And I mean, I think Bitcoin assets are the most pristine, but it just doesn't really make sense. It's never really made sense to trade them on Bitcoin. And I think that the industry is finally converging on that single thought. And Emblem Vault's been building for this idea for like the last 10 years. So I think we're extremely well positioned.
That we are. And also BRC 2.0 as well. Benari and I, we actually talked about
BRC.
this.
BRC 2.0 fixes this.
Yeah, I mean, we talked to Benari, we talked about this in Denver last year, kind of about BRC 2.0 and the cross chain and stuff. So, dude, excited to have this conversation with you, man. First, how have you been? It's been about a year since we've talked.
I'm doing well. Mainly my job is to balance my life and balance, like, it's all about balancing right now. Otherwise, I quickly fell because like there's a lot of stuff happening all the time. Yeah, I'm good. Right now, it's like past midnight for me. I'm in Bali currently. Gonna go to the Hong Kong next week. I'm traveling quite often. And yeah, the releases are very soon for a lot of things. So I'm more in this, like, okay, speaking about things, attending to events, spending time with business partners. Like, we've been working a lot with Unisat, for example. Like, I'm gonna go hang out at their office a little bit the next week. So yeah, like all going well.
Awesome. So we have one live stream person asked dumb questions. Peter says, I asked dumb questions last week and got no response. If I remember correctly, Peter, you were asking questions about things that were not on topic. So if it's related to the conversation, then we're happy to answer it. So, Benari, one main question I have, because actually I've read through the docs a little bit, but is BRC 2.0, is this the same thing that Unisat is building as well and stuff that's happening on Fractal, or are these two different protocols? Or are you guys ending up merging these somehow?
Yeah. So basically, the BRC 2.0 is the programmability upgrade. Like, there are multiple upgrades coming to BRC20. For example, another upgrade is single transfers. Not having to like inscribe a transfer and then set it, etc. Like, making things much more easier for BRC20, basically, at the base layer. And then also Unisat has been working on the swap module. But like, we learned a lot of things from the swap module, to be honest, like working on that together. So that's also coming to completion. And then there's the programmable module, which is the BRC 2.0. It's like, programmable module is the main upgrade, kind of, because our vision from the start has been like, either we have programmability for these Bitcoin native assets, especially the tokens, or this is not gonna move beyond very limited use cases. So it's like, okay, either we do it or it dies. I think it's the same applies to the runes also. Like either somehow it becomes like more capable through whatever upgrades happen to Bitcoin, or it dies. And yeah, like so there will be many upgrades. BRC 2.0 is mostly referred to the programmable module. It kind of stuck. We could have done a better job with the messaging, let's say.
No problem at all. So I do have here pulled up on the live stream the specification sheet that you guys put out here, just to go over some key aspects of it, and we'll dive into some questions. It says all operations are conducted via Bitcoin on-chain ordinals. Any Bitcoin wallet can send commands to the module and interact with it permissionlessly, and then the indexers as well evaluate the operations. The programmable module is designed to function without any reliance on centralized systems, bridges, multi-sigs, layer 2 solution sequencers, or validator networks, and maintains the following. Users only pay for Bitcoin transactions. There is no gas token, right? That was already similar. And then programmable module does not require any sequencers to function, right? That's what layer 2s use. So what is the main upgrade here within the programmable module? What things can I do with BRC 2.0 that I wasn't able to do with BRC 20?
And basically, you'll be able to have smart contracts, like literally inscribed smart contracts. Just like think it as this, like what do we do with BRC 20? We write a sentence, right? We say, let there be a token with this name, with this supply, and you can mint this. It's like an expression, right? And we have like 3 functions, like mint, deploy, transfer. We're basically expanding the set of expressions with this. And we say, okay, now you can use smart contracts, basically Ethereum smart contracts, like written with Solidity. And like, if you want, you can use a couple other languages also. So the indexers, like basically indexers has been looking at these expressions literally written, typed onto Bitcoin blockchain, and then doing the computations off chain. And it's exactly the same thing. It's just an indexer does more computing now. Like an analogy would be BRC-20 was like a working with calculators. Now it has these like smartphones, let's say. That's like a big upgrade, you know, like a computer machine. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Like,
So it says yeah, you guys chose EVM as a virtual machine building custom EVM execution engine, which you guys are using our EVM. Excuse me. So if I understand this correctly, right, with BRC 20, it was a JSON, like you're inscribing JSON onto an inscription or onto an ordinal, which then you're using an indexer, right, to kind of validate the logic to do, you know, the 3 commands before, which was deploy, transfer, and or mint and transfer. Here, what you're doing is you're changing out the JSON for some sort of smart contract, and then the indexer is reading that smart contract. Do I have that correct?
it's still JSON. We internally call it smart JSON contracts, like a joke. Like smart JSONs, we sometimes call that, but it's still a JSON. But you just now can write a lot more into it, and indexers do it. Like one thing I wanna put my finger on, because you said indexers validate. You use the word validation, and like there is no validation in BRC-20. It's just there's just calculation. Validation is when calculating entities talk to each other and stake something and validate the state. With BRC-20, there is no validation because it's not needed. With ordinals or runes, there is still indexers doing the work, but again, there is no validation. That's the kind of the beauty of it. All these like meta protocols, you don't need a validator network to validate the state, because the information, because of two main things. People always say, okay, like Bitcoin is the data availability layer. Yes, like that's the first thing. But the second thing is more important. Bitcoin also orders the information. Like it's the most critical thing actually. So when a data is publicly available and not tamperable and is ordered, then you can just say, okay, like we're gonna run this program. This is how are we gonna count these things. That's what Casey put out. He said like, this is how are we gonna count sats. And this is the program. This is the reference implementation. And like anybody can build their own indexer for ordinals, but like you need to follow the rules of how we count. And like whatever you do, please make sure your results match the reference implementation. So BRC-20 is exactly the same. And BRC 2.0 is exactly the same. And coming to the EVM, it's why we chose, like one of the reasons we chose EVM, a customized version, our EVM, there's a lot of Rust in there, is because first, like we're very good at it. Like we know we did a lot of things with EVM before. They're like a low levels, not just like writing, deploying smart contracts, but like on a, let's say like a lower level, like security audits and stuff. And in this case, we stripped down a lot of things from this virtual machine because we don't need a state validation. Ethereum has a lot of state validation. You know, like there are the nodes talk to each other, they stake, they slash each other. There is like a lot of complexity when you try to have a network of validators. This, like the ordinals way, is a different way of doing things. We didn't do things like this before in the crypto at all since everything began. This is like a weird and new way of doing things, but it works and we can do a lot with it. So with this EVM, like a customized EVM, we basically strip down a lot of elements that is not needed and basically only using it for as the execution machine, basically. And it has some like pros also. Like first, the system gets extremely much more simpler to understand from like a developer's perspective also. The second, the execution engine, like in our initial tests, it's like 30 to 40x more performant. And what that means is that like, you know, I don't know if I'm going into too much technical by the way, please.
No problem.
But it's like,
so here, let me ask.
Let me finish. Like this performance thing is like the amount of computation that we can do on Ethereum in 10 minutes. Let's say it's like 100. Okay. With this stripped down version, the amount of computation we can do on Bitcoin is like approximately 30 times more. So it's like, yes, Ethereum confirms like every 12 seconds, but when you look at like 10 minute to 10 minutes, now we can actually do a lot more computation on the Bitcoin with this approach, with how BRC-20 works.
And so now, once this is implemented, then this only affects new tokens moving forward. This isn't a retroactive upgrade.
It is a retroactive upgrade. All the sats, pi, it affects every tokens.
So let's say I'm an Ordi owner. What happens then? Like once this upgrade comes in, what type of new programmability or functionality are you working on, or what's something that maybe Unisat is looking to implement as an owner of Ordi that I could do that's new?
You can think it as like a Solana, any token on Solana or any token on Ethereum. You know, like you can, like at the end of the day, you need products to play with. It's not just the tokens. So this upgrade basically is like opens the door to new applications first. So at first, your ordi will still be just an ordi. Like you won't be doing a lot of things, but then there will be like swap applications, certain DeFi applications, like we are as Best in Slot, we're working on like a wrapped Bitcoin on BRC-20, like a good wrapping solution. So we have like a BRC-20 Bitcoin, so we can play with it. But then, you can like put your ordi into, let's say like a MakerDAO kind of app in which you can mint dollars with your ordi, for example. Like you'll be able to do all these kinds of stuff, or you'll like how to put, like you can put your ordi into a liquidity pool and stuff. You know, it's not like a new thing when you look from the Solana and Ethereum perspective, but it's like a big thing from Bitcoin native assets perspective. And to add a little bit, this 10-minute block time, it changes a lot of things on how do we design protocols. So it's, for example, a lot of DeFi on Ethereum and Solana relies on liquidation-based products. Like everything builds on top of those. But like for liquidation-based things, 12-second block time makes sense. Solana also makes sense, but like when it's 10 minutes, it's weird. 10 minutes is a long time, and it's not like even 10 minutes. Sometimes it's 40 minutes, right? So it's like, how to say it? In this point, we generally start talking about sequencers. It's like BitcoinFi, Bitcoin Finance, through BRC-20's, in the case of BRC-20's, it's gonna require sequencers, basically. And then you can have like good, robust DeFi applications. Some people say the OpNet team guys, I also spent some time with them in Dubai. They call it like slow-fi, but I'm like, because we did a lot of things in the DeFi world, I'm like, okay, it's the name, but like, what's the inside? Like, well, what does it look like, the slow-fi? I can't imagine that. But like one thing at this point is like, okay, imagine like you know about the DeFi summer, you back in time, and you know there's going to be a DeFi summer, and like you're a builder. What would you like to build? Like which one? Do you want to build Curve? Do you want to build Uniswap? Do you want to build like bonding curve applications? You like whatever. What do you want to build? So that there is like from the builder's perspective, there is a huge opportunity. Do you want to build Ponzi games? Do you want to build like weird on-chain token games? Like we can do all of that on Bitcoin now. I don't know how it's going to look like, but I'm sure people will build weird things with it too. So one of our tasks as Best in Slot is to also provide building tools for developers. Like, for example, there is going to be an Explorer we're going to release, like an Etherscan, basically, very similar to it. And then like we have test suites, etc., that we're going to put out. It's a very big upgrade, actually. There's a lot. Like if there was like a token, this is like we raised 20 million to launch this network, and then we have a token. Like we are doing a similar work, but like the token is not needed, so there is no token. Anyways.
So major upgrades no more transfer inscriptions, right? Then the indexers are being upgraded, for smart contract functionality, so you can add different types of mechanisms. So then, is it on the application layer for the users to build these DeFi type applications, like you're mentioning, like a MakerDAO, like a stablecoin issuer, or something like an Aave or a Curve, or some of the more kind of complex things? This is then a builder has to come in and then basically use the smart contract programmability that is shared by the indexer to then go ahead and build this kind of XYZ protocol.
Yeah, I mean, let me provide like another perspective. Like we are working with more than 100 teams with the API things. Like there's like many teams building. Like we see and we talk to a lot of teams, for example, that are building Rune products, and it's like the amount of backwards bending to do something with runes or like BRC-20 in its current state. It's crazy. Like teams are trying very interesting things and like asking us a lot of interesting endpoints and stuff. So like we're also part of that like backwards bending in a sense. But like there is an appetite from the builder teams to build things on Bitcoin. But like it's extremely limited when you compare it to the other smart contract platforms. So this upgrade basically is like, okay, you want to build things. Now you have like an infinite canvas. You want to copy things from other chains, go for it. You have an idea that leverages 10-minute block time in a smart contracted platform, go for it. Like whatever you want to do, now you can do it. But yes, like people needs to build stuff. We're gonna, of course, like we have a lot of products coming, BRC-20 related. But like it's basically anybody can deploy any kind of smart contract and like play with it, basically. And it's not just DeFi, you can have like DAOs, for example. Like DAOs managing treasuries, you can have like voting systems, you can have RWAs. That's another like a case that we've been planting some seeds, because like the argument there is, if you're gonna tokenize like a $500 million shopping mall, are you really gonna do that on Solana, or like Bitcoin is like a better? It's like the global human notary system at this point. For example, RWAs on Bitcoin becomes another area of exploration with BRC 2.0, for example.
And so with runes is a UTXO based model, and then BRC 2.0 is an account model, which also BRC-20 was. But then with this upgrade, it remains like an account model, but then has this additional programmability with smart contracts. And this is what allows this type of additional functionality, because you're not bound to essentially the limits of Bitcoin. You're essentially just bound to, you're just using an inscription as essentially kind of the token, or yeah, you're using a SAT as the token instead of a UTXO. And so then the SAT itself is basically represented then of whatever this smart contract functionality is.
Yes, like how I express it is,
yeah,
like individual sats are message carrying capsules. Like imagine, in some movies you have these like people put messages into tiny glass things and then put it into a tube, and then the tube like goes and then like you send a message. It's exactly like that. Like in this case of BRC 2.0, in the case of BRC-20 also, each SAT is a message carrier. And because we can order the SATs, like about messaging protocols, when you think about like, let's go one level deeper. when you think about all our like computation mechanisms, servers, like information protocols, internet protocols, etc. Ordering the information is like very critical. So what's beautiful with using each individual sats as like a message passing protocol is like you don't need to think about how are we going to order these. It's already ordered. There's already like a robust ordering system. Bitcoin itself is like a clock. It's like a big ordering machine. So, and then now like it's like, okay, whatever message you want to write, you can write it and it's going to get computed. Of course, there's like gas topics. It's like there's no gas token, but there is still gas. But like that's another topic.
So in this scenario then, or this upgrade, BRC 2.0 becomes more of a full stack token issuance protocol where it can issue fungible tokens, semi-fungible tokens, or NFTs. Whereas on the other side, right, Ordinals is more of a NFT standard, although you guys kind of jailbroke it in the beginning, or BRC-20 did, and then Runes is a little bit more for fungible tokens. So this is a little bit more on the realm of something like a counterparty that can kind of do all three different types of tokens. Plus, I guess you could go down the more experimental route with 404s and some of these other ones because of this kind of boundless programmability.
Interesting that you caught it. Not many people are catching this, but yes, like like yeah, not many people are fluent in Ethereum things and Bitcoin things at the same time. So like people kind of don't think about this. But yeah, this is what you work on all the time. So like it's, of course, you can like catch it. But yes, technically you can have like NFTs and other things with this programmable module because at the end of the day, it is EVM.
Yeah, that's it.
But
That is an interesting aspect to it. That
yeah,
of course,
it's like a mutation. I don't know if people will do something with it. I don't know if there will be teams using it. Like I personally don't have much interest about that because like Ordinals itself is like beautiful, and it's just like, but like if someone deploys something, it's gonna be real. Let's say like it's gonna be computed, and then again, if you're using OPI, I mean OPI will be the reference implementation for this. It's like, okay, you have APIs that supports this, Neve assets, let's say. It's like a Neve standard of assets. You know, we have a lot of different standards like meta protocols. This also leads to kind of like a new category of assets, a new category of Bitcoin native assets. But I don't know if people will build with it. Like that's not our goal. It's like a side perk or like a side mutation that more innovation may come out of. Because when you think about it, it's like all these other new meta protocols like people put out, they don't get adopted because like you don't have infrastructure for it. Like developers need simple APIs for it. You need websites to see, you need like explorers, etc., etc. Like this one comes with the full package. So I don't know if people will try and do things with it. That's like something that we're gonna see. And people are not aware of it because we also don't talk about it because that's not the point. But it is actually like another big design space for people to play with.
Adam, you're on mute.
Sorry, I got the gardener here. Didn't want the grass cutter going off. My question is like, yeah, when is really the question? Like, when is this going to be? When are people going to get to start using this? You know, because right now it's, I mean, we hear this a lot. It's a lot of talk about what it's going to be, how great it's going to be, but the reality is that if it's not easy to use for people and it's just a dev tool, it's very easy to see this just getting lost in the Meta protocol mix. You know, like when is stuff actually going to be built and people can actually trade with it?
Yes. Yeah, like the practical aspects. So we're on track on March. Like, I'm not gonna give you like a more refined date, but we'll definitely put it out on March. And when I say put it out, it's like the indexer. There's like a couple other things around it, and then we're gonna say, okay, now if you deploy anything on the testnet, it's gonna get indexed. So we are foreseeing like a 2 to 3 month testing period for the programmable module. So, and then there is going to be the big upgrade. It's going to be like, okay, we tested it, it's working as intended, and we're also like collaborating with other indexers, of course. And then there will be like, okay, block hates 900,000, let's say. I'm just like example. Sure. And then it's gonna be upgraded, and then we're gonna have mainnet applications. So, like, from the timeline perspective, the ideal case, the best case scenario would be like before Q2 ends or early Q3. Early Q3 is more realistic, let's say, or like let's say just Q3. Q3 is upgrade completes. And then I don't know if it's gonna be like, because with Runes, for example, like we have a certain date and like teams build products with it. So when it came out, there were already a couple products that people can use. Our intention is to like build products ourselves as best as slot. So Q3, basically Q3, new products, new apps. I mean, Uniswap is also very excited about the upgrade. They're also going to put out their own apps.
So like the indexer, is that going to be open source between, like, are you working on that with Unisat, or how's the indexer going to work? Or is it going to be, you know, because I know we've run into that in the past where you've had conflicting indexers. So how's it going to work as far as the indexer goes?
Beautiful. So the main problem with base layer BRC-20, it still exists, is that we didn't nominate a reference implementation in which like Ordinals has a reference implementation, Runes has a reference implementation. It's like people don't talk about indexers in the sense of Ordinals and Runes because it has a, Casey basically said, you're going to run this program and whatever it spits out, that's the truth. If you have your own program, make sure it matches it. Otherwise, like the truth will be the reference implementation. So this is the topic of reference implementation, basically. And for the programmable module, OPI will be the reference implementation. And we are still, for the base level, the indexing has improved a lot because there are three main indexers for BRC-20 that has super different tech stacks: Unisat, Best in Slot, and OKX. And there are like a couple other teams, but this is like the three main indexers. And we matured the protocol to a state where a reference implementation is not needed because like all the results are matching now all the time. So we haven't seen any divergence, and like there's still quite a lot of activity, by the way. Like Chinese people love this. Like US kind of lost the interest with BRC-20, but there's still a lot of things happening with BRC-20, especially in the Asia side. That's another reason why I'm here. Like, okay, I wanna know who these people are. So yes, now there is like there will be for the BRC 2.0, there is a reference implementation, and we're gonna also like nominate a reference implementation for the base layer of BRC-20 also. So that solves the whose truth is truth problem in a very simple way.
Benari, take me through the interoperability of this. We were talking about at the top of the show that some Runes communities are starting to explore different types of L2s. A lot of people are saying, you know, maybe the L2 thesis was always kind of the end state, issue assets on layer 1, trade them in these L2 environments. What does that look like for BRC 2.0? Is there, does it come compatible with interoperability to the other EVM layer, since it is EVM based? What about kind of bridging to Solana? And just to take us through kind of your thought process of BRC 2.0 across all these other chains.
So there are two answers to this. First one, yes, it becomes extremely easy to bridge BRC-20 tokens to other networks. That's easy, basically, because there's a lot of open source products, open source bridges built with EVM. So it's like one of the low hanging fruits for any team that wants to build a bridge to Solana or to Ethereum or whatever. So that's one thing. But like, I personally more excited about the second path, the sequencer path. So this programmable module doesn't need any sequencers to function, and you can still have applications that are based on sequencer technologies. So what you have is, for example, one of the products that we're like working on is basically like a, we don't talk about this much, but like, let's say like BizDex. It's like you don't leave Bitcoin. It leverages BRC-20's smart contract capabilities. And it is trustless. Like it's like you can have applications that resembles a centralized exchange experience, but you're still like on Bitcoin. And how you make this is like, that's when the sequencer topic comes in. Like you can have centralized sequencer powered applications on Bitcoin, but the beauty is like there is no multi-sig. It's provably I can't steal your coins, and also it's provably I can prove that I did not reorder the transactions. And it's like if the sequencer goes down, the money doesn't get locked in. So this is what excites me a lot. Like this can be the like a native, like BTC-Fi still is like up in the air. A lot of teams are trying to do BTC-Fi, but it's like I don't see any anything happening when you compare it to other chains, let's say. So this is like a good candidate that can achieve that. Like we don't need to think about, okay, like layer 1 is the asset issuance, and then we take them to other chains to trade them. There is another path, but that path is like at least 9 months away.
So Benari, what you're saying essentially is that you can create like a hyperliquid for BRC 2.0 assets.
Yes, you don't need to breach them, but like it's like now it's I don't think, I hope there will be, but like now the technical barrier just 10x's when you start thinking about those kind of applications. But it's possible. It's technically possible. I mean, it's like we talked about this stuff a year ago, like all this programmable stuff, and then we're like, oh, if we can make it programmable, then it also opens the door to like sequencer-based applications. And then we're like, okay, like let's build it. And it's been a year, and we've been building for a year. Now, like the first step is okay, let's put out the programmability first and see where it takes us. But like this is not the, like there is a second stage to BRC 2.0. which is like when we're gonna see these the sequencer powered applications, let's say.
Yeah,
I mean, we're gonna build one. We're definitely gonna build a couple, but I don't know. Like, we'll see. Basically, it also depends. Like you said, it's totally possible that like we release this and like people don't show interest and it dies, and then Bitcoin goes back to being boring unless we get OpCat and stuff. Yeah, like we were talking about this like internally in the company. It's like, okay, what's our like vision in a sense when it comes to like Bitcoin native assets? It's like either BRC 2.0 works and we have this a new ecosystem of a lot of applications, or we get OpCat, which is, I don't know when, how it will happen, because like it was interesting in, there are people who has thousands of Bitcoin and they don't want anything to change. So it's not just like that's another topic.
Yeah, it's interesting. So just to clarify as well, for those who don't know what sequencer-based applications are, sequencers are what run L2. It's kind of the rule system for L2s and app chains. So things like Hyperliquids and app chain, things like Anime and Abstract and things like that. They always use different types of sequencers to build kind of specific purpose crypto applications. Is kind of the best way to describe it. Chris, do you have any questions for Benari? I see he's thinking over there. Some smirks throughout the conversation.
Yeah, man. I mean, it just seems like the ecosystem kind of might have just a little fatigue, you know, of just so many different protocol standards and everything like this. So Benari, how much of this do you think that the overall winner is actually like a tech-based winner rather than like a social-based winner? And what do you think about the action going on in Runes and dispersing to different chains, you know, via layer 2s and other mechanisms, rather than just building out the full tech stack and hoping that the tech wins rather than the social layer? What are your kind of thoughts on those levels?
I'm gonna start with the second question. It's like those personally doesn't interest me that much. Like Bitcoin assets, like taking them to somewhere else with like multi-sigs, basically. It's like everything works with multi-sigs. I don't know how ICP works. I don't know how Odin Fund works, to be honest. But I personally, I'm not interested in that because I don't know, maybe like we've been doing things in the Ethereum space since 2016. So I would just go back instead of like trying to like issue on Bitcoin and then take it to other chains. Like I'm not that interested in that camp, let's say, personally. But like going to your first question, you said I didn't get, like you say something based and something based, but I couldn't hear well.
Oh, sorry, just more of like a social penetration rather than like the actual technical penetration of the industry. You know, sometimes these things just kind of get so much bigger and their kind of traction kind of outweighs the actual technical capabilities of what they can do. So sometimes if you reach a certain threshold in the social kind of mind share, it's really kind of difficult for anything else to even compete, even though they might not be as technically capable or relevant. And so how do you think of kind of weighing that in with what you're building and getting people to care if maybe the Runes ecosystem or some of these other implementations kind of take too much mind share before we can get a highly capable technical product onto the market?
There's a relation. It's like first we like how to express this. Like I always talk about design spaces. It's like a good way to describe it. It's so on Bitcoin, like imagine a circle Okay, and it's like let's imagine like a plate. And on plate we put apps, different things. So Bitcoin plate is like a small plate. It's like a dessert small plate. When you think about Ethereum, it's like a planet. Or like when you think about Solana, it's like a planet. Like it's thousand times bigger plates because it's infinite. You can put any kind of applications, like it's bounded with imagination. So for social attention to come, we need apps, right? We need social-fi, we need like weird, all kinds of apps like Pump Fun kind of like broke out. And then there's all these like small elements that makes up to the Pump Fun movement. So if we don't have those elements, then like the amount of things we can build are very limited. So it lowers the chances of getting a breakout application. So the more developers experimenting, the more builders building, the higher the chances that something pops out with super high social penetration. That is not the case with Bitcoin, in my opinion. I mean, with ordinals, for example, that's what happened, right? It's like extremely simple and it's on Bitcoin and it makes a lot of sense. And it's actually better in many ways. So it penetrated and it changed a lot of things and on the Bitcoin ecosystem. But like we have one developer, like a very like KC, one developer does something and then like all this stuff happens. But when you compare it with the Ethereum ecosystem, compare it with the Solana ecosystem, there are like hundreds of those cases, hundreds of different applications with high social penetration. So there is a correlation between the technology capabilities and the social penetration.
And then maybe
That's
just
how I'm thinking.
maybe just one more, not to pin you guys against runes or just kind of pin anyone against each other. But how is your confidence level towards what you're building towards after you saw the fragmentation with runes and kind of the new distribution mechanisms that they're going forward with? Do you feel more confident that your implementation is kind of down the right path? What are your kind of thoughts on just like the current state of maybe runes and the route that they're going? And how does that affect your confidence levels towards BRC 2.0?
We're gonna support runes. We're gonna keep supporting runes. It's like I personally, I also like we do things with runes. We have our bags also. Yes, like we are doing a lot of things with BRC-20, but we do things with runes also. And when we think about like new distribution mechanisms, it's like it's so small in the perspective of having a fully programmable medium. I will personally, we spend a lot of time on it, so of course I'm gonna say, but I like in the long term, I would bet more on BRC-20 succeeding as like the dominant token protocol. Of course, like runes can stay relevant still, but like again, if we can't match what we have on other chains, it doesn't matter if it's BRC-20 runes, whatever. Like it's not gonna work.
And building on Bitcoin is tough, not an easy feat. A lot of competitors. As we have gone through this conversation, BRC 2.0 reminds me a little bit more of like a tap ecosystem than actually a runes ecosystem, because both are kind of gunning more towards programmability, where one is kind of just a UTXO based token. I think they both can coexist and could even succeed as long as it's continually attracting new users into the ecosystem. But I am kind of excited to see what happens here. Vinari, is there anything else on the horizon for BRC 2.0? Is there any type of part of the conversation that maybe you'd missed that you'd like to note, or some things maybe to look out for here over the next few months as you guys begin internally testing?
Not on the BRC-20 side, but we have a collection coming up. It's like because I was talking about like how ordinals are like superior to NFTs, and interestingly, my CTO, my co-founder, he loves generative art. Guys, it's crazy. Like doing generative art on Bitcoin is like 20 times cheaper to deploy, 20 times cheaper to mint, and you can go super, super sophisticated with the stuff you can do, everything living on chain. So we over engineered an art piece, and like we're gonna release it highly likely next week. Not the mint, but like the art, like what we did, etc. Because that's another thing that excites us. It's like the art side of things. Generative art on Bitcoin is superior to all other chains, Solana, Ethereum, etc. Like the way Bitcoin works, it's amazing. So we're also we've been talking with like some generative artists from the other ecosystems that we worked previously before. It's like people are still unaware, but like generative art, it's a very niche art space, let's say, but it's also like there's a lot of players. But like generative art belongs on Bitcoin. That's another thing that we wanna speak about a little bit. It's actually so beautiful. So yeah, that's another thing that I wanted to add.
So is this a best in slot project, or is this just the co-founder, like a personal project?
It is a best in slot project. We call it BIS Artifacts. It's a 10K collection, and it's the first ever lockable ordinal. Also, that's another thing that we're gonna release. We call them ordinal lockers. It's basically using Bitcoin script to lock ordinals. There was one project doing soft staking. Like that's like a little bit ridiculous from the technical perspective, but we're gonna release a product that you can lock ordinals for a specific period of time. So it's like ordinals will become stakeable. This is not related to BRC-20. This is ordinal specific. And then we're gonna also do it for runes, like locking runes. And this is real locking, like you can't move it once you lock it. It's just like staking on Ethereum and Solana, let's say. It's also like it's interesting. We can have these primitives like a locking and staking mechanism without having smart contracts. That's beautiful. But anyways, so with this art piece, these artifacts, you mint it, and it's like a generative art, but it's sealed. When you mint it, it comes in its sealed state. So the art is not fully revealed, but the sealed state itself is an art piece also. In the sealed state, you can trade, you can list, you can transfer, etc. But then you'll be able to lock them. And when you lock, it shows, like it reveals the art, and then it
Did we lose him?
I think we lost him.
Damn, that's good. Staking mechanism is interesting, and the locking mechanism. I know the Fluid token guys have a platform for that as well. Looks like he dropped off, but man, awesome conversation. BRC 2.0. It's exciting to hear there's continued development on it and that people are still going to be trying stuff there. I think there's still a large market out there for what you called sequencer-based applications, right? Thinking about doing like again, using the example of like a hyperliquid running on kind of BRC 2.0 technology, I think is pretty interesting, right? That's kind of, I guess you could say it's kind of a countermeasure to what Odin Fund is doing, where, right, they're using ICP in the background. This would just be using an indexer and no other blockchain to do kind of this similar idea. Again, this is why I kind of frame it more as like a tap protocol competitor than a runes competitor, because those two things are kind of doing the same thing, but in a different way. But Nari, do we have you back?
Yes, I'm back.
Awesome. So we heard everything up into, the locking mechanism, and then you mint it and it's not in its revealed state at that point in time. Sound like that was the end of the conversation, but I'll give you the time if there is anything else to add to that.
Yeah, we basically like needed a new endpoint for it. And so like we did like a pull request to ORD, the main ORD. There's like a new endpoint to make this possible. So now you can have like art pieces on ordinals that changes form factor when you lock them. It's a new primitive again in the ordinals ecosystem. So it's the first case using that also. And that's pretty much it. And it's a lot of mathematics. If they're like nerds, we can talk about that later, but like it's serious mathematics art, let's say.
I like math.
One more. I mean,
ahead,
maybe
Chris.
on the topic of just ordinals, the fragmentation in runes and BRC-20, that kind of makes sense. The ecosystem's going through its growing pains. There's not really a rival for ordinals, and they kind of make the most sense of NFTs on any chain, regardless. But it's still kind of having its own kind of growth problems, and the ecosystem sentiment is pretty rough. So, what do you kind of make of that? That it seems to be the best implementation with no real competition in sight, but it still sees its own struggles. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's about the NFT market. It's like the NFT market still hasn't, how to say, it's seen its like second season. The second NFT season hasn't started. Yes, things are popping up here and there, but it's a broader market thing. Like another insight into that, it's like there is a lot of people who got burned with NFTs, and these are like normal business people. So the atmosphere around NFTs is still a little bit vogue. So, and ordinals are in the NFT category. I mean, it's much different, yes, but it's still in the same category from the user's perspective. So I think that's an issue of like a broader market thing. Are NFTs back right now? I wouldn't say it's back. So ordinals going like super ballistic, bull market ordinals happening. It can if whales decide, if more Bitcoin whales decide to play with it. Can ordinals kickstart another NFT cycle? Possibly, totally possible. How that happens, I don't know, but it's highly likely.
I like that. And kind of on that same train of thought, how are you guys thinking about collection size for where we are and where we need to be for your generative art release? What are you guys thinking for collection size, given where we are today, where we're going tomorrow, and kind of taking everything else into account? It's a tough thing to balance.
Yeah, we started with 10K. It's like
10K, let's go.
10K, it's like 1,000 is called, the first 1,000 is the golden ones. The golden ones are like 3 times more expensive because it also gives like lifetime membership to BIS Pro. And then the 9,000 ones are, we call them the celestial ones. It's like a I mean, we have a lot of things to release. It's like, even if we can't sell out 10K, it doesn't matter, because like we have a lot of things coming up. So I think we can sell out. It doesn't have to be in like, oh, in 2 hours we sold out. It can be 2 months. We don't care much about it, because it's also like this subscription mechanism you're trying, and we have shitload of features and products coming out. So it's like it's the, how to say it? It's like the, the holy triangle of NFTs. It's like the good art, good utility, good speculation. We provide them all. I mean, the speculation part being like you lock them up, and then, yeah, of course, at some point there will be tokens and stuff, but I'm not talking about that yet. It's like further down the line. But it makes sense, right? Imagine Spotify. Like what we're doing is like, okay, first 1,000 subscribers are our like holy fans, or like holy supporters, and they get like lifetime membership to whatever we build in the future.
So
And then,
is that the first 1,000 minters? It wouldn't be randomized at all. It would be different generative art, but the first 1,000 minters would be, for instance, your first 10 fans. So those are going to be like the guaranteed top level. Is that correct?
no, it's, you can choose, because it's not first 1,000, because there's a price difference. And we priced it in the sense that like, okay, a yearly subscription for the services that we're gonna put out, like free minting services, like a lot of other services and stuff. We priced it around like $360 for the celestial ones, the 9,000 ones, and the golden ones are around like $1,000. So you can choose which one you want to mint. It's not the first 1,000, but we have like a whitelist thing also. But yeah, from the whitelist, it's first come, first serve. It's gonna be.
Pretty interesting approach.
So you can, yeah, we're gonna see, because yeah, it may not be for everyone. I don't know like how people will react. We'll see. It's also like a passion project. Like, it's not a revolving just like one stone. It's 100 times more complex, and hopefully people will enjoy the art itself also.
Well, Benari, appreciate you for coming on, man. It's always great to catch up. We'll miss you in Denver this year, so that's where we got to hang out last time and connect. But awesome to see that BRC 2.0 is still alive and will be here pretty soon, and we can go and explore in this new design space of smart indexers, I guess would be the best way to describe it. So appreciate you for coming on, man, and also for the endeavor with BRC 2.0.
Thank you for this conversation. Thank you for having us, sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we love Best in Slot. Appreciate everyone who joined us. If you're new to the show, we host the show Tuesday through Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. If you could do us all a favor and follow the Emblem Vault account, as well as the Agent Hustle account, that is our AI project. You can stay up to date with everything that we're doing. Some big releases coming out of our AI sector.
Big
for
week
Emblem
this
Vault.
week, man. It's coming.
Big week this, yeah, gonna be a big month this month for Emblem Vault. We'll be back tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Also, make sure that you follow Benari and Best in Slot and Johan, the awesome Best in Slot team. They've been grinding here. They're an early ordinal builder, and they're also doing cool cross-chain stuff as we have through this conversation. We'll see you guys tomorrow, again, at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Until then, stay safe out there, and let's continue building the Bitcoin ecosystem.
See you guys.
Take care.
See everyone. Bye-bye.